And now, the Android Basics segment. This is a segment where we discuss the things that power your device from behind the scenes. And now, here's this week's episode, Android Basics.
And now we turn to our Android Basics section. And as I said at the start, this is one of the big ones of the year because Android 15 has finally dropped for eligible Pixel devices. Dropped earlier this week. Was it Tuesday? Was it Wednesday?
That was Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday, I thought so. So I'm guessing two of us have it. John, I'm guessing you've still got your Pixel 9 something, and Warren, you have it. So, Warren, what's your take?
Well, first though, we're giving Google grief here, right? So I'm the biggest Google fanboy in the whole group, but I'm kind of chastising Google today when it comes to this one, being objective here. Frankly, I don't know why, of course, we've talked about this, why it didn't come through until now and all of that. And to be honest, this is one of those areas that I'm like, well, Google, if you were going to hold this thing off till October before you bring it on, why not just hold off the devices like we used to have instead of, rolling out those devices back in August and, made us to wait and wait? Because for me, usually the joy of having a new Pixel device is that new OS iteration. And for me to have a new Google device with yesterday's Wine OS, it just kind of poo-pooed the whole thing for me. So that's the beef that I had with Google. But at least, we were patient and waited, and I kept mashing that check for system update, and finally it got there, and I was so glad it finally got there. So I'm liking it. Of course, these things have been kind of iterative, to say the least. Not much difference, just a few more improvements here and there. Of course, we've talked about this, most especially during the beta and all of that, then the QPR program that preceded the final release of Android 15. Certain things, though, that are not in here that I'm not happy with, unless, of course, you're in the QPR program, is that setting the charge limit to say, hey, I only wanted to charge 80% or whatever, that you cannot find in the final release of Android 15 unless you are in the QPR program. So that's my little beef about that. But besides that, another good thing is that it dropped alongside with the Google feature drop of, basically October security patch that brought a lot of improvements. And this, whether you have Android Pixel 9 or not, so long as you have Pixel 6 or higher, you should have had that, and lots of improvements in there. And some of the improvements that are brought in, let me just highlight some of those. So you got battery charging, where it says fixed issue occasionally causing device to reboot. So I haven't had that, but apparently some people have had instances where device would reboot, and that was something that was tied to the battery management for some reason. And then general improvements for charging and battery usage. Then we have the biometrics fixed for issue in face unlock stability in certain conditions. Then we also have Bluetooth, where it's fixed for occasionally preventing connection with certain Bluetooth devices or accessories. So if you've been having some problems, maybe Bluetooth dropping off, I hope this fixes that problem, because this is what this is supposed to address. And then we talk about the camera here and general improvement for camera stability under certain conditions. I don't know what those conditions may be, but maybe if you're having some flakiness with your camera, this should have fixed it. The next one, though, is display and graphics, and fixed for issue with gray shade in inner display screen under certain conditions. General improvements for stability or performance with certain system apps. General improvements to display stability. And then the next one has to do with the framework and fix for issue occasionally preventing apps to access media files. So maybe you have an app that you're trying to access something to share and you can't access that. I hope that makes it a whole lot better than some of the experience. The next one, though, is system fix for system stability and performance in, again, of course, certain conditions. And then telephony fix for adaptive connectivity services, stability and performance in certain conditions. So it's something like maybe if you've been having some problems. I know we had one guy here, he was having problems. Does anyone remember who that guy was? I think, was it Kenny? Yeah, I think Kenny, the guy from Alabama, was having some problems with his connectivity. I hope this fixes that for you, Kenny. General improvements for network connectivity and stability and performance in certain conditions. Then user interface. I like this. Fix issue causing incorrect Android icons displayed in certain conditions. Fix for issue with assistant launch animation or the lock screen. Fix issue with home button stop responding in certain conditions. So if you're having something that sometimes maybe the button says it's not responding or whatever, maybe the home key says it's not responding, that's fix for issue with incoming call notifications in certain conditions. You guys remember we talked about this where if you sometimes maybe a call comes in, I hope this is one of those fixes. And instead of it taking the whole screen, sometimes it kind of like recedes to the notification area. I hope this is one of those things that fixes that problem, because I know some people really don't like that. And you got to go find the answer, or you have to use this two-finger double tap to answer. I hope this fixes that. Fix for issue with layouts for animations during transition in certain conditions. Fix for performance and stability improvements in certain UI transitions and animations. Those are some of the highlights, but as far as I'm concerned, though, I think these are some things that probably were part of the Android patch, security patch for October, because both came hand in hand. But another thing I want to highlight here is that if you are familiar with the volume area, so if you hit your up or down volume key, and then if you tap on that sound settings, you realize now that all the bars now, if you can see a little bit, they're now bigger and look better. And then instead of like maybe we have under calls and you have to move to the next line to see the call slider, they are now together. So if it says calls, for example, it will tell you what the call slider is at, and you can just adjust it there. You don't need to move to the next line. So I really like that. And then, of course, the improvement in the private segment. So guys, John, anything that you saw in here that you like, most especially? I mean, like I said, it's just iterative, but some things are just improvements over what we've had in the past.
Sorry, I think I was dozing off there. I didn't have YouTube sleep timer to keep me awake. Yeah, so most of this stuff, like you mentioned, it feels kind of like a deja vu to me. Like this is stuff we've had and been using for a while. But yeah, I do like private space. Is that what it's called? Private space? Yeah, that's nice. It's a good way. I mean, if you want to have like your stuff hidden, you can. But also, what it's good for is having a second account. So like, if you want to log into like a different Telegram account on the same phone, you could do it using that. So I guess that's the biggest feature for me. I mean, obviously, other flavors of Android have had similar features, but it's nice to see it baked in to the OS at this point.
Another thing that I saw in there, which I thought is really interesting, though, even though I was hoping and being hopeful is not bad, is the fact that I noticed that, for example, say if you have a Bluetooth device connected, and then you go into the Bluetooth preferences, or you bring up you can see it has better support. It lets you know which codec that thing is using, and also you can choose to stop that thing from playing on the Bluetooth right there, and you could just tap speaker and you'll just leave your Bluetooth headset or Bluetooth speaker and just plays right on your phone. And if you want it to be played back on your headset or your Bluetooth speaker, you just tap on that and choose where you want it to play, whether you want it to play on that speaker or play on the car audio or whatever. I was hopeful, though, that we would have something like what Samsung has, that sound separation, so I could just have my talkback on my phone and just have that audio played on the other device. And that was being hopeful on my part. I think I got disappointed, but I think we're getting closer.
I certainly learned something from what you said during your introduction to that, Warren. You were talking about when the new device came with the operating system, and you said the joy of a new Pixel device. I didn't know there were joys in new Pixel devices. So every day's a school day, I guess. Good to apparently hear that there are.
There's a lot of joy going on here, Ed. Now, frankly, because for me, we get a new device, right? I mean, Google's the one that conditioned us to this, experience, or to this situation where whenever we get a new Pixel device, it means we have the new OS coming on it. And for it to come out without the new OS, it kind of just dampened that spirit of joy, in my humble opinion,
I'm going to push back on this a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. So the new Pixels have never come out with a version different than what is already available on the other Pixels. So in the past, like, Android would be released in September, all the old Pixels would get the new version of Android. And then 2 months later, or the next month in October, when the new Pixels came out, they didn't have anything new on them. They had the same current version of Android on them. And nothing's changed. It's just the current version of Android is 10 months old instead of 1 month old.
What happened with the 8s?
Hang on, Ed, before you say that. John, I'm kind of confused. When, say we have the Google developer or, Android developer come out in February or March, whenever it comes out, every phone that qualifies, could, jump on in it, participating. Now, when the final one comes out, though, is that the Pixel that comes out that year will come out with that, new OS. That's what I'm talking about. Even if the Pixel, or rather the Android version comes out in August, like what we had, I think was that Android 13. Yeah, Android 13 came out in August, the final stable release, and I think there was another one, maybe 11 or 12. One of those. Those are the only two that I remember coming out early, before the Pixel device comes on. But what I'm saying is that I want to see, when we get a new Pixel device, so whether the final release of the Android operating system comes out in August or September, I want to see the device coming out with it. So I don't want to see a device come out and not having the new OS. That's what I'm talking about. And that's how I got disappointed.
But it's never come out with a new version of Android. It's always come out with the current version of Android.
What do you mean by current version of Android?
Whenever you buy a Pixel 8, like let's say you get a Pixel 7 or a Pixel 8, it comes with the same version of Android that the Pixel 6 or 7 has already been updated to. Like, it doesn't come out, you don't get an exclusive version of Android because you've bought the new phone.
No, John, I think you're still missing the point. What I'm saying is, for example, let's go back to Android 13, which came out earlier in August, before the Pixel 7 was released. Android 13 came out in August of 2022. And when we got Pixel 7 in the fall of that year, it has that Android 13 that was made public in August. So you have a new version. It did not come out running Android 12, which, this one, for example, Pixel 9 came
So
out
you're
with-
just saying you want it to come with the version of Android that is supposed to be released that year.
Exactly. That's
So
what
you
I've
would
been
have
saying
wanted them to
all
not
this-
release the Pixels until now.
Yes, exactly. So
Okay, well then I disagree with that. Give me my freaking Pixel in
For
August.
me,
I loved
because-
that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. If I don't mind it coming out in August, but then be sure that you have the final release ready so that when I turn that thing on, I have that new OS on it, rather than having yesterday's wine on my new shiny device. That was my disappointment, but I'm thinking though that next year, since Google has adapted this, that may be what they will do. We'll see what happens with Android 16.
They got a problem with the 8 and the 9 both being on the same version, haven't they? Are they going to find a way to give the 9 an extra Android version? A bit weird otherwise.
Oh, no, Ed, because it's not like the whole idea is that you get 7 OS updates, right? So
Yeah, but
I
8
don't,
and 9 came with the
7
same
years.
version.
7 years of updates. You don't get 7.
7 years of updates. So it really doesn't matter.
Either
though.
way, either way, it's still the same version. Because otherwise that's 7 and 2 months, isn't it?
Well, it
Doesn't
really
change
doesn't.
anything.
Doesn't.
They both came with Android 14, and Android 15 will be outside its release date is 2 months on, and so unless they
Yeah.
find a way to push another version to the 9, then they've got a problem, haven't they?
Oh, but it didn't come. It didn't come out the
Anybody
following
who's
year.
still using this phone in 7 years, yes, has a problem.
Yeah, like what they're
It
going to
doesn't
do.
matter. It doesn't have anything to do with software. Anybody who's currently using a Pixel 2 right now probably has more problems than will they get the next version of Android.
Warren still is using a Pixel 2. Warren likes his keyboard on his
Oh,
Pixel
I
2.
do have a Pixel 2 XL, and I love it. You know what? I think that the keyboard, the Gboard on Pixel 2 is superior to any other one out there for some reason. It's a great phone. I like it. If you don't have it, you may want to pick one up on eBay just to see what I'm talking about.
Or not. So, are there any changes in Android 15 to installing apps outside the Play Store, either Play Store apps installed externally or ones that were never on the Play Store installed externally? Has that become more difficult?
I think it's still the same thing. You just have to give those permissions.
Yeah, the process is the same. All that's changed is what permissions are required to have to make the user enable restricted settings. It used to just be if it required accessibility permissions, but now if you sideload an app outside the Play Store that requires permissions such as like overlaying on the screen, like displaying over other apps, and some other high level permissions like that, then you will still you could still do it. But there's just the extra step of after you install the APK, then go into the app info for that app, hit restricted settings, or hit the more options in the top right, go to restricted settings, and then allow them. And then, you'll have access to all those permissions and stuff.
I want to ask you a question. It's actually John, not Warren, because Warren doesn't anyway sideload apps. So are you still having the Pixel first?
I have it. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that you already updated to Android 15. Well, did you try to? Are you using G-Show on the Pixel? I mean, do you have it? If yes, so after updating G-Show, it's the example, but actually apps that require permission, accessibility permission, if they are not from the Play Store, which is something that we all know about. We used to be able to use third-party installers to update the apps. Otherwise, this would cause the app to ask for the accessibility permission every time you do an update. So I heard that this was like they claim that it was a fix. Actually, it is sort of a fix because it was a security issue, but the problem will be that we will not be able to use third-party installers to update the apps. So we should just each time we want to update G-Show, for example, we have to go and give it the accessibility permission, which means that we will not be able to use the screen reader until we give the permission. So have you tried to update G-Show, or have you used G-Show using Android 14? And do you have any experience about that?
No, I don't honestly. Haven't even installed it on my Pixel.
So if you ever do, just let us know, because as I said, as far as I know, this was fixed. So this will cause some complications if this is the case, really.
So,
All right,
Kirin,
yeah,
was that fix coming from the Joshua or G-Show screen reader itself?
There was a hole where if you use a third-party installer, you could essentially bypass the need to enable restricted settings for accessibility. I think Google has patched what they saw as a fix. Is that right, Karine? Is that what you said?
Yeah, true, exactly.
Yeah. So it probably shouldn't have worked, but it was quite helpful. I was going to ask exactly the same question, to be honest. I was going to say, will third-party installers still be able to bypass these settings? Maybe the third-party installers will need to update themselves.
If there's nothing to just take advantage of, they won't be able to do anything.
Yeah, this is really interesting, because if someone wants to use that screen reader, they should be able to use it. So I hope that I don't know, I don't use it, but something tells me I think it will still work.
Yeah, it will work.
It will work.
It's when you update it, though, you need to enable that permission every time. And obviously, until you do, you haven't got any speech.
And so, so if you don't have speech, you can enable that.
Yeah.
But if one has TalkBack, though, they could use TalkBack to go enable that, right?
Yeah, and that's easier for Samsung because you've got two hardware shortcuts, haven't you? But if you've got G-Show on a phone and you haven't set up like the accessibility button, then it's going to be annoying, isn't it?
And also, it's an additional step, actually. So actually, not only one step. So you have to go to the app info, and no, first you have to try to turn it on, and then to go to the app info, then hit more options, and then allow restricted settings, and then use the biometrics. So it is like so many steps to do each time you have an update, especially with G-Show for people who use the beta versions. So each week we have at least one beta version usually. So we need to do this each week.
Yeah, that can be tedious. Well, I hope that there's a solution, or someone finds a way of getting around that. Or, like I always said, bring the damn thing to the Play Store and call it good. But, knuckleheaded guy doesn't get it.
Yeah, but they charge him 30% if he tried to sell it through the Play Store. And I think it's annoying if you want to put an accessibility app on the Play Store, one of the UK developers. I think they might have now finally done it, but they shied away from it because I think Google is very pushy to make you tell them every 5 minutes what you're doing and go and explain yourselves. And
So this is my solution to that kind of thing. I wish though someone at Google could be hearing us. Give a special, preference to people that produce accessibility related apps, for example. And I'm not being selfish here, guys, but I thought that, maybe someone, the little guy, trying to develop for blind people, maybe just charge them like 10% or 5%, because it's not like they're getting a whole lot of revenue from it. Frankly, if I were Google, that's what I will do. 5% if you're doing an exclusive accessibility app.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that they decreased the percentage that they take if the person doesn't earn like a threshold. If this person doesn't reach this threshold, the percentage would be like less than 30%.
15.
I think.
Yeah,
15,
it's half.
Yeah.
It's half starting out. You have to make a lot of money before they start charging you the full 30. At least on
The other thing-
subscriptions. It might be different for like in-app purchases.
One time, yeah. The other thing you could do as well, I think, obviously they are checking and pushing those apps that require the accessibility permissions because that they think they'll be mistrusted. So they should give them to fewer people, and they should simply ask us whether an app deserves accessibility permissions, and we will be the arbiters. How about that?
That's perfect. Yeah, definitely. Because, we need to encourage people, because if you're developing for a specific group of people, and of course we know not many of us have that money, and so these guys are being mindful of that and charge us less. So in order to give them that incentive, I think something of this nature has to be done. And I just wonder why no one has ever thought about doing something like this. Because we should have that Jisho on the Play Store, and give the guy a break when it comes to that taking whatever that percentage from what he gets.
And not all apps even sell their packages through the Play Store, so he could still. I don't like the manual thing on his side, but presumably you could go to a website and pay via PayPal to activate or something. But it would just be quite helpful to have the app on the Play Store.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because with Amazon now, I don't, if I'm trying to buy a Kindle book, I'm not buying through the Play Store anymore. So yeah, that's another workaround. I think he should bring it to the Play Store. Kieran, you are probably the closest to that guy.
He did briefly, didn't he? Was it 2022, 2021? It was on for like 4 months.
Maybe 2019, somewhere back
No,
there.
it was after that.
It was brought to the Play Store twice. If I remember
okay.
correctly, first one I don't remember when this was, but this was a long time ago. Then he re-implemented it in the Play Store for maybe a few months, but the version wasn't updated at all. So the version was just one version, and then it was removed. But the thing is not actually in the payment thing and in the percentage that Google takes. It's in the amount of permissions the app asks for. And don't tell me that why an app should need this permission and why the app should need that permission. All of the permissions are optional, but the app can ask for them, and they have their justification. So because Jisho is or has an extension system, which is a very strong one and capable one, so you should be given certain permissions to be able to launch certain extensions and sound schemes and stuff. So Google has issues with known developers. It had issues with Tasker, for example, for a while. And you know how much Tasker is famous and how much Tasker has a wide user base. And, so if Google has issues with Tasker, so how could we expect that there won't be issues with a developer who is in China, who has a screen reader that asks for a lot of permissions, and it connects as well to some Chinese servers to get certain services, certain features like the AI stuff and the text recognition and things. So I think even if he wants to, Google won't let this be in the Play Store. There will be. I'm almost sure that there will be issues, and it won't be accepted in the Play Store. So the thing is just much more complicated than the 30% or the 15% thing. It's just related to the app itself. And other thing is that the person is in China, and there are many Chinese users. So actually, Chinese users don't have any issues with that, with the Play Store thing. And another thing, which is the last thing that I want to talk about regarding this, the Prudence screen reader has issues as well with it. Like they just was saying that we have our app in the Play Store, and this was like a big selling point for the app. And then after some time, the app disappeared from the Play Store. So I don't know what's the case now. How is it re-implemented or not? But the app was out of the Play Store for a while. So if Prudence failed, then I think that Jisho will likely to fail. more likely to fail. So yeah, it's seriously complicated thing.
Yeah, and that's why the UK guy didn't want it on because of the permissions for accessibility related services and what Google want. Although I think they've changed. I think theirs might be now. But Prudence, as of a couple of weeks ago, wasn't on. I'm not sure if it is anymore.
So I kind of see where both are coming from, though, because you got actors out there that would, if they find out that an app has certain permissions, that they could manipulate or use it or whatever to use it in accessing things on people's devices unknowingly, they'll take advantage of that. So I can see where Google is coming from. However, though, the prudence that you guys are talking about, I think they are still not on the Play Store, and they haven't explained as to what the problem is. I know I've raised that issue with them, but they had some problem with their account on Google or whatever the case may be. I don't want to, I don't know what's really going on. They're not being in the up and up about what's going on. If you're having problems, let people know that, hey, maybe Google is flagging our app or whatever, but so far no one has come out to say exactly what the problem is. But frankly, I just hope that people that develop, for those of us with disabilities, will have some kind of a preferential treatment and maybe kind of give them a little bit of a break in certain aspects. Well, another thing though that we probably should have talked about is the fact that the anti-theft or the Find My device is more improved, and the thing I like about it is not only on say you have a Pixel 9 or Android 15, but it's also something that comes through the Play Store as well, so you could actually download it. I was looking it up on my Pixel 4, and in order to be able to get some of those features and take advantage of the new improvements and all of that, I had to download the app. It will prompt you to download it. So I like that feature. It's a whole lot better than what we had earlier. I'll have to play with it some more.
Yeah. How have they improved it? What have you noticed?
It has a lot of options in there compared to what it was earlier. Now, frankly, I didn't even try to say, I'm going to go leave my device somewhere and see if I can find it. So
I think what it does now is like they've added things, similar to how car crash detection works with like using the accelerometers and stuff to detect when you've been in an accident. It uses that same thing to know that basically know if your phone's been snatched. Like if it's sitting still with the screen on, and then all of a sudden the accelerometers go crazy with the screen still on, it will lock your screen, that sort of thing. I think from what I read, that's the type of features they've added with the new theft protection.
Yeah, and then if another thing is that if you try to remove the SIM, it's going to kind of prompt you for a PIN or something like that. So it's really interesting. Like I said, I haven't played with it, but I saw a lot of options in there that I didn't look into.